We love you. Hi guys. Going to talk a little bit about Christopher Coleman. Get to know him a little bit as we compare him to Christopher Watts, or Christopher Watts compared to Christopher Coleman. They seem to have some of the same traits, personality, and their upbringing, maybe. Coleman was born on the 20th of March, 1977. Christopher Coleman came to the public eye in 2009, in May. He had a wife called Sherry. She was 31, and a son, Garrett, 11, and a son, Gavin, 9. These 3 family members were all strangled to death in their home, in their bedrooms, early hours of the morning. Apparently, Chris Coleman had gone to work out at the gym in Columbia, Illinois. 2 years later, in 2011, nearly 2 years to the day, on the 9th of May, Christopher Coleman was taken out of Waterloo Courthouse into a cop car after the Judge Milton Wharton sentenced Christopher Coleman to life in prison without the possibility of parole, of the killing of his wife and 2 boys. But apparently, like 7 years later, and this is happening now, Chris had appointed an attorney, or his family did, Lloyd Cueto Jr., Cueto, filed a petition arguing the jury saw 4 explicit photos which were not properly reviewed by the courts of Chris and Tara. Tara was the mistress. Oh yeah, this Chris also had a mistress. And we think his wife may have thought he had one too. But she is not his girlfriend or nothing anymore. I wonder why. Well, anyway, the prosecutors alleged Coleman, he wanted to leave Sherry for Tara, but his $100,000 job a year prevented him from getting a divorce. You see, he worked for Joyce Meyer, the televangelist. And he worked for her as a security guard for her. And this is why he had to go to the gym and keep trimming, keep trim and buffed and look tough, keep his hair shaved, that kind of thing. And plus, Chris was an ex-military man, as well as Sherry. She was ex-military also, years ago, when they first met. Apparently, Joyce Meyer it's not a law I don't know whose law it is, but it's her church, and they're Christians, and they kind of banned people that are employed and work for her from getting a divorce. So if you were hired, and apparently if you had been divorced before she hired you, I guess that's a different matter. But as the story goes, Chris Coleman believed that if he ever got a divorced from his wife, divorce that is, not if she, we love you. Okay, I'm back. Something happened where my mic went off, and I don't know exactly where, but I think we'll start with Chris Coleman thinking that because he worked for Joyce Meyer, he's employed, and if he ever got a divorce, he would lose his $100,000 a year job. He was under the impression that's what would happen. But, and I think he may have seen others lose their job because of this. But still, emails and photos and videos did show motive to kill his entire family, his wife and 2 boys. The defense team Christopher Coleman had during his trial asked for the photos to be banned because they were explicit content. Oh yeah. These were nude pictures, and which they showed everything. The judge in this case, Judge Milton, allowed them in, but she also told them they have to blur them out with a like a black marker, you know, that black little screen they put on there to black things out. But during the deliberation, a thumbnail versions were not blacked out. Yeah. So the jurors got these photos, and they apparently got a magnifying glass and had a good look. And while they did that, they were time-stamped. And that came into play here because what was represented in court turned out to be not true. Of Christopher starting this an affair with Tara. They had stated in the courts that it happened 2 months later than it did. Then these photos, time-stamped, meant that they must have been seeing each other at least 2 months prior because of the time stamped on the photos, on the thumbnail. Was this an accident that these got in the hands of the juror in deliberation? Was this one big mistake? Or was it not? How could this happen? How could this happen to jeopardize a case that it was going to be hard to prove that he really did kill his wife and children, because he also had an alibi. And just because he was having an affair doesn't mean that he killed his family. Just saying. But these time-stamped thumbnail photos of him in the nude shows that he was having this affair 2 months earlier. And these are nude pictures. So if you meet somebody, do you give out nude pictures right away? Would you work yourself into it, you know, after a month or so? Oh, gee. Well, anyway, these people are like, not all in the head anyway. So he probably knew her. He probably met her at the gym also. Probably did. Yeah. So, therefore, 48 hours. And 48 hours, you know, the show 48 Hours, that is. And other interviews done with some of the jurors said that these photos were a turning point. Yes, these photos were the turning point. You see, these jurors that were in deliberation, quite a few of them didn't believe he was guilty. Oh, yeah. Now, did the defense team know this? Because, you know, these lawyers can have a good idea which way things are going. But these jurors were saying that this was the turning point. And after looking at the thumbnail of these pictures and getting a magnifying glass, they called this the ha-ha moment. The ha-ha moment. I've heard that comment before. In the Chris Watts case, the ha-ha moment. Well, and the timestamp photos indicated that the affair started at least 2 months earlier than stated in the court. The jurors said that they believe Chris Coleman was deleting photos while being interviewed by the police the day of the murders. So here he goes. You know how you're allowed to be in the interview room being questioned by detectives. You know, where were you? They're just trying to get information. You're not under arrest yet. And of course, you are allowed to. They're not going to stop you doing anything with your phone, because they have they don't have really written permission to take your phone away right now. All they can do is ask for it. They have to get a judge to sign off for a warrant at this time. So they probably didn't do nothing with him. They just let him talk. They questioned him and let him do what he wanted with the phone, because, you know, they knew, I think they knew that they could get this information later. But at this time, he was just being questioned. And they said that they weren't going to find this man guilty. Is this a surprise or what? As soon as the other woman, or he lied, or they found out that they've been lying, you see, they may have thought, well, if you lie about this, why would you lie about when it started? Because you told him you was having an affair, or they found out he was having an affair. But why lie about when it started? Well, there was a reason for that, I guess, that he told him 2 months later. But anyway, they find out, and I wonder what made them feel that he wasn't guilty. The pictures and the timestamp pictures, not the nudity of the pictures, but it was the time stamped on it, changed their mind. Therefore, this is why he was found guilty. But this was in deliberation. I mean, they were just discussing everything, all the evidence they were looking at. And that, therefore, based on their decision on the evidence that was never admitted into evidence, there was stuff that was never admitted into evidence, like fingerprints. They said there was some fingerprints or fingerprint that was unaccounted for. They have never found out whose fingerprint. Was it just one fingerprint? We love you. Okay, my mic was cut off again. I don't know what's going on here. I must have touched something. All right, I'll start. We're still in the deliberation room, and we're talking about, you know, the thumbnails and the pictures of Chris Coleman, and that the jurors found out that it was a lie about the relationship starting later than they had said. And then comes the shoe prints and the fingerprints that they found but didn't know who they belonged to. This was part of the evidence, and they were weighing that up. But you know, a lot of people could have been in that house or before they moved in. I mean, it could have been there a long time. But anyway, when they were killed and strangled, he was not in the home. But he said when he left the house, they were alive. And when he came home, they were dead. Oh yes, that's what he said. And so it's true that he went to the gym. But that doesn't mean they were alive when he left. And there's more. I mean, there's much more to this story. I mean, there's a camera. Remember, he was getting threatening emails to his computer, and these people, this person obviously knew where they lived and was threatening. If you didn't do this, blah blah blah, and that he had two computers, and then one was always with him and one was left at his home or at the office. And he states, you know, Chris Coleman states that anybody could have got a hold of that. So I think this man believes it was somebody that knew him and was in the church. Well, anyway, he's establishing an alibi, and that somebody was out to get him and his family. And then they had left notes or something in his mailbox to his home. But some neighbor put up, well, apparently Chris Coleman was supposed to have cameras, but if he was so worried about his life and his family's life, why did he leave a window unlocked so somebody could get in there? Why weren't the cameras on? But next door neighbor put the camera up, and I don't think Chris Coleman knew about that. And he was seen doing something, taking out these letters. So he was the one that was doing it. He was this one sending this fake accusations and threats to him and his family. He was the one doing it, you see. So it wasn't just these pictures. They had video of him doing these things. Now, who does that? Who sends fake threats to yourself? Establish an alibi, establish somebody else killed them. You know, that's what that was about. So this was a well-planned out thought, plan to kill his family. Yep, and he was acting normal too. In fact, he was in the yard, in the front yard, playing catch, playing ball with his children that very evening. Like Chris Watts took his kids out to a party and was playing with them. The afternoon, before they were murdered. Well, they seem to think without all this and the other that they might have found him not guilty. Or they probably would have had a hung jury. But with a couple of things that were entered into the deliberation room, turned the jury around. So who knows what they were really feeling. Oh dear. But really, but did Christopher Coleman really think he would lose his job if he were to get a divorce? Do you really think he would have lost? It's not the law, but it's Joyce Meyer's law. You know, apparently there are several people that have been divorced and not been divorced once. They've been divorced twice. And they've been addicted to drugs, and she's hired them. But she also has fired people as well for being divorced. And it is her church, it's her organization, and she can set the standards. She can make it, and she can break it. But Joyce Meyer and her husband that she has now, Dave Myers, they also both been divorced. Joyce Myers was divorced when she was very young, at the age of 23. And the reason why is because he was abusive and he cheated on her. He cheated on her. So now this Joyce Meyer don't like this Chris because he also cheating on his wife, isn't he? She doesn't like that. So she divorced her first husband, and she met the guy she's married to now, Dave Myers, and they've been together for many, many years. I don't know how many years, 50 years. They've been together a long time. And I guess they set up this organization, and the rest is history. She has 4 children, 4 grown children, and I think maybe one of them has got divorced. I don't know if he's in the organization though, in the church. I don't think he works for her. But still, divorces happen. You don't want them to, but they happen. This Chris Coleman may have had to sign a contract of some kind, stating that while he worked for her, that he will not get a divorce. Maybe. You know, if he signed that, he's breaking the agreement, isn't he? I guess you can do that. And it states why. You know? But I don't know if that was a fact or not. If that was just... I mean, it's an organization. It's the church. They're Christians. But that don't mean they don't get divorced. Christians get divorced every day. But I guess she wants people that are to make her look good. Not dropping off flies like she preaches the Lord and talking to each other and always work things out. Yet people are getting divorced around her. She probably don't like that. it's bringing, it's not looking good for her when people, this is happening around her. So I just said Joyce was married before. She's been divorced. And also, when Joyce Myers got divorced, she apparently, this is in her book, this is what she said, that she got divorced because her husband was cheating on her. He was abusive. And then once she got divorced, she did go to her local bars until she met her husband Dave. Hi guys. My mic went off again. I'll have to look at this, see what's going on. So, after, you know, Joyce Myers got divorced from her first husband because he was abusive and all those kind of things, and this is in the book, and she put it in the book that she wrote about her life. And this is where she, after that, she went to her local bars and did do that for a while, and then she met her husband Dave, and the rest is history. She's been with him for a lot of years now, 50 years, something like that, quite a while, and which she had her 4 children with. And her ex-husband was a car salesman. Yep, the car salesman. Heard a lot of stories about the car salesman. Well, this was many years ago. So that's about the organization. So he worked for a very important lady there, and I guess Chris Coleman thought he would lose his job if he got divorced, this $100,000 job. Well, you've lost your job because you killed somebody. Now you killed 3 people. So I don't think that was a very good excuse that he would lose his job. You're going to lose your job no matter what. And so he was fired. Or they say he left his job. No, he was fired. He was let go. Because he was charged with murder. So Joyce, isn't it better to let people get divorced? Because this may have pushed this man to kill his whole family because of a woman, a mistress. And it's weird because Chris Coleman and Chris Watts, both their fathers is called Ronnie, you know, Ronald, Ron, whatever you want to call him. And their mothers, one's called Cindy and the other one is Connie. They both begin with a C. Oh yeah. And they're kind of like the same kind of people. Except Chris Coleman's parents are pastors. And but they seem to be the same kind of people when it comes down to the wife. I don't think they liked his wife very much, Sherry. Number one, it was a spur of the moment when Chris got married to her. They kind of eloped and got married. He called his parents and said, "Hey Mom, Dad, I'm married." He kind of eloped and married her. And he brought that wife home, and she had a little mini skirt on or something, and a tattoo. And the father looked at her and went, Oh yeah, well that was the moment that the parents didn't agree with his choice of wife. Yeah, sound familiar? Yeah. And you, Coleman's father, you know, of course he kind of stuck up for his son. And Chris Coleman was quiet, like Chris Watts, you know, seem to be normal. As they say about Chris Watts, you'd never think he could have done such a thing. Well, of course, they're both big fat liars. Yeah, they got that in common too. Both big fat liars, and both had mistresses, sex-driven, nudity, semi-nude pictures. You know, they both got that in common too. But you know what? As we say Chris Watts looked into Chris Coleman's case. Did he ever see it? Because he forgot to watch the end. He must have fell asleep. Because he would have known how it ended. Nobody is going to get away with murder. Now, these two people aren't the only ones that done stupid stuff like this, thinking they can get away with murder. Oh no. Many more like it. I mean, look at Patrick Swayze. He thinks that he was going to get away with it. But somebody... But apparently he had a mistress, or whatever we want to call her, the girlfriend, the mistress. What was she at one time? Kelsey's never with him. They had finished. Oh my goodness. I don't know the true story of that. But apparently they were finished. But the other woman in Idaho, I don't know where she stands. Was she the girlfriend? Apparently her friend seems to think that's the guy she was seeing. So what do we call her? The girlfriend? I don't know. We're going to find this out soon. Whether she was the girlfriend or a friend that would do anything for him. We'll see about that when that one comes up. But Chris Coleman, he was in a prison in Pontiac in Illinois. And he was in Columbia prison. And he also had to be transferred to another state for safety reasons. There is interstate agreement that allows prisoners in a high-profile case to be transferred for safety and security reasons. And this is why Chris Coleman was moved to Waupun County, Dodge, and in Wisconsin. And this is the reason why he was moved there. And this is the reason why Chris Watts was moved from Colorado to Wisconsin. For the same reasons. Safety and security. Okay guys, thanks for coming by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.